Hey everybody, this week we've got something a little different for you. I am solo in this one. I go to Lawrence, Kansas, where the University of Kansas is, my alma mater, and I interview Academy Award winning Kevin Willmott, who wrote BLACKKKLANSMAN and won the Oscar for Best Screenplay with Spike Lee. He means a lot to me personally, as you will hear in this interview. He also requested that we not walk very far in our walk. So we walk so that we can then sit. So this one's more stationary than usual. And because I was traveling when I filmed this, I'm solo without Keith. So Keith, you were missed. But I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. So without further ado, here is my dock walk with Kevin Willmott.
On your left.
You're listening to Dock Walks with Ben and Keith.
I am here joined by Academy Award winning a film professor emeritus, one of my favorite people, Kevin Willmott.
Hey, brother man, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm so happy to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you.
Thank you for taking the time to do this with me. And I want to show everybody where we are. We are standing on the corner of Mass Street here in downtown Lawrence, Kansas. And this is where I went to undergrad, which is how I met Kevin. And I love being back here.
Yes, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. I always get kind of like a warm and fuzzy feeling when I'm here in Lawrence because I had such an incredible creative undergraduate experience where I discovered my passion for documentary filmmaking.
Yeah.
I was in a bunch of bands, not good ones. You didn't ever hear of any of the bands I was in.
But you were in them. You were in them.
I was in them.
You was in them. Yeah.
I was very enthusiastic, happy to be there.
Yeah.
And but this felt like a creative hotbed and like a safe place
Yes.
to experiment and
Yes.
to like
Find yourself.
find my voice. Thank you. Find
Yes.
myself.
Yes, indeed, man.
And I've often dreamt of coming back here and maybe teaching and you
Sure.
know just like I just love being back here. So I'm so thrilled that you're joining me.
Well,
And-
we're all, you know, you're one of our favorite sons. We're all very proud of you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
And you know, that's the thing that we always wanted, you know, Lawrence to be was a place where, you know, somebody could do their thing.
Yeah.
You know, a student could find their voice. Man, you are the example of that, man.
Well,
Yeah.
you set the stage for that. As long as we're both complimenting each other. I mean, you grew up in Emporia, Kansas.
Oh, Junction City.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Junction City.
Yeah.
I think one of your films was set in Emporia
Yeah.
recently, and
Yes,
that's why
yes.
I got that in my
Yeah,
head.
that's right.
You're from Junction City. You started making films very independent. It almost doesn't even do it justice.
No,
like you were making films in a place where that just didn't happen.
No, man, and you know, and really, to be honest with you, man, it's like, you know, it's like we were talking about this great technology we have now, man. There was no technology then.
Yeah.
And it was just, you know, I used to look at Montgomery Ward's catalogs at the 8mm cameras and just dream of getting one of those, and that was like $1 million.
Yeah.
For our family,
Right.
You know,
Sure.
So it was just, that wasn't going to happen. So it wasn't really until I got out of grad school that when I went to grad school is when I really made my first move. So I wrote plays instead.
You did.
So I was a
Okay.
playwright.
But were you always interested in movies?
Always, that was always the goal.
And plays were the way that you could get
could afford
closest to it. Okay.
Yeah, I could afford it.
And so tell me about what your parents did and their reaction to what you said you wanted to do when you wanted to be a storyteller, when you told them.
Well, you know, I tell you, man, it was funny because my parents were really hip. They were older, you know. I had older parents. My father was born in 1898. My father was 60 when I was born.
Wow.
And that's just 36 years after slavery.
Wow. Oh my goodness, Kevin, that is
Isn't that
incredible.
crazy? Yeah, you know, it was like, and my mother was real hip. She was younger, obviously, and you know, so they were both very settled. You know, nothing freaked them out about growing up. You know, they've seen everything, done everything.
So it was already kind of non-traditional around your house. So for you to say you wanted to do something non-traditional wasn't a big shock.
I never even had to tell them.
Oh,
I just go and did my thing.
Interesting.
I mean, it wasn't even a conversation.
Okay.
And you know, and at the time, I really kind of wanted to be an actor more than anything.
Okay.
And because that's all I knew I could maybe do. But I wrote stories. I wrote my own plays, and I wrote a play that got me, that really kind of gave me the confidence to go to college, because I wasn't supposed to go to college. No one in our neighborhood went to college.
Yeah.
Only people that went to college were athletes.
And this would have been what year?
This was 76. I went to a Catholic school, and it's because I worked at a cemetery, cutting the grass at a cemetery, and they loved me there, and they got me into this other school. And he's the one that encouraged me to go to college.
Okay.
And that's where I wrote my first plays. But the whole time, you know, like one of my plays was an adaptation of a film. Was an adaptation of Swept Away by Lino Wertmuller,
Okay.
the Italian director.
Okay.
so you know, I'm doing this in Salina, Kansas.
Wow. I was going to ask, where is this? Where is it?
It was a small Catholic school. It's closed now. That's how small it was. It's closed now, but it was a great school.
Okay.
And it had a great drama coach. So I really just did my thing, you know, and that's why I always try to encourage. You know, that's what you did so well, was to always, you know, just what I did was that when you go to college, you go to college to do your thing.
Right.
You know, you go to college, find your voice, find yourself, and do your thing. And it's real simple. But I was older. I worked a couple years before I went to school.
Yeah.
So
I did that same thing, and I wonder if that's that's the secret sauce.
I think that's the secret sauce, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
You
appreciate it more.
No, and then you worked in the world. You know that shit ain't no fun.
Exactly. You know what's waiting for you.
You know what's on the other end.
That's right. If you don't succeed.
If you don't get this together, man, I got to go back to that.
Right.
I'm not going back to that.
Right.
You know, I'm not going back to that. So then I went to grad school.
And where was grad school?
That was at NYU.
NYU. Okay.
Yeah, it was in Tisch, but I was in the writing department.
Incredible. That's a big jump from
Oh,
a
it was
small
a big
Catholic school.
man, big jump,
Kansas
dude. Big jump, brother. So, you know, I went to NYU and you know, my play that became my first film got me into NYU. And that's where I really went there to learn how to write a screenplay.
Interesting.
Because there was no place in Kansas you could learn how to write a screenplay.
Sure, because films weren't really being made here.
No,
so nobody did that.
I mean, films were made here, but nobody was making films here. I mean, like, you know, Picnic with William Holden and Kim Novak is made in Salina.
Right.
But they're not making movies here.
Right. But they're not, right? Yeah, the person writing Picnic lives in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so those productions would come to Kansas, shoot a movie in Kansas, and then leave.
Right.
But there was no industry here.
Yeah.
And there was nobody making films here. So yeah, man, that was the thing, man. So you had to just figure it out. You had to just figure your way out, man. And mostly it was, I think I really so glad I wrote plays, because that gave me, it taught me a lot about character development and story and dialogue, especially dialogue.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think it's hard to teach dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of have to be around dialogue, you know, read enough screenplays, be in enough plays, see enough plays, have enough of an imagination to have dialogue in your head.
Right.
You know, it's a real school you have to go to.
Absolutely.
For that.
Well, and also you have to have some lived experience, because if you don't understand how people talk.
that's that. I mean, one of the jokes I just tell my wife is like, you know, somebody, they need to have a boot camp for Democrats to know how to, because they're all nerds, and people that never had to fight for stuff in real life.
Yep.
You know, they never had to, you know, ward off a bully. Mm-hmm. You know, where guys would kick your ass, and so if you couldn't talk trash back to them,
right?
You had to. I mean, so many times, you know, you had to learn how to just talk trash.
Yeah.
Because that saved you.
Right.
from an ass whooping.
I feel like you're probably a pretty good trash talker.
Oh man, let me tell you, dude. And my mama was the king of trash talkers, and I kind of picked it up from her. And they used to have tunk games at our house. It was like a little gambling casino at our house.
I was watching the 24th last night to prepare for this. Somebody says tonk, want to play
Yes,
tonk.
yes.
What does that mean?
Tonk is a black card game.
Okay.
I think only black people did it, really. And it's like a 5-card, those kind of like rummy kind of card game.
Okay.
But it was like, back in the 30s and 40s, it was people gambled with it.
So it was specific to like black culture.
It's specific to black culture.
Okay.
And so my mother would have tonk games, and this is when I was in high school, and I would put the money up for her. So it'd be like, you needed some money to get the game started, and you'd have like a pot of money just to keep the game going.
Okay.
And these games would be all night long.
Oh wow.
From all night long until the next day.
Okay.
And she'd cook food, and so people were there all night long, and so I was an investor in it. I was an investor with her in it.
So you would provide.
I provided the money up front. Because I had a couple of jobs in high school. I was always working.
Okay.
And so she'd come in the middle of the night. She said, "We're up 500."
Wow.
And but it was like, and they would talk trash during those tonk games, and soldiers would come in, their wives and stuff, and so you had to, it was just I mean, I didn't realize at the time because it's just how you're living as a kid.
Just absorbing.
You're just absorbing. But it's like that's the thing that Donald Trump comes from. He comes from. He didn't go to school.
Right.
He was just a rich guy that had everything handed to him.
Yeah.
So he's like the bully.
Yeah.
He's like the guy that comes in and says, calls you names and shit. And if you can't respond back to him,
right.
And also your response has to be funny, and it has to like target them in a way they're not expecting.
Yeah.
And then it just deflates their shit. And
I love that you're turning this political or taking it political because your films from the beginning have been political films. I mean, it was really interesting for me to go back and kind of visit your catalog and realize like, oh, you have been either making films that have an activist point of view or in a lot of cases lately just making films about activists.
Right.
Your documentaries that you've done recently have been these. You're basically telling the biography of people like William Allen White and your
Alvin Brooks.
Thank you, Alvin Brooks, and then your Kansas, the No Place for Hate.
Yeah.
That is like basically telling the story of the Kansas legislature, and they're making it hard for trans and gay
folks to
kids,
do their thing. Yeah, man. That's to me. I think growing up in the 70s, that was such a activist time, and the neighborhood I grew up in, the older guys, they weren't activists, but they all knew what was happening. So they let me hang out with them, and I couldn't talk, but I could listen. They let me listen. So I remember one conversation, man, where this is in Junction City, and they were talking about, yeah, man, they got tanks on the street in Lawrence. Got tank, and they eventually gonna come down here for us, man. That's what guys were saying. And then there were tanks on Mass Street in the 60s, and during they burned down the student union on campus. So it was like that kind of stuff just stays with you and kind of and influences you in various ways. And then, man, I think I've always kind of, when you care about other people, it's like the same thing you do, man. You have an appreciation for characters.
Yeah.
You have an appreciation for people.
Yeah.
And when you appreciate people, it's hard not to be an activist in some form or another.
That's a great point. Like you have the empathy to think about things from other people's perspectives.
Yes.
And so that leads you to want to stand up for them.
That's right. And that's what Republicans don't have. Republicans don't care about people. And they only care about money, and they care about power. And so the thing that Democrats do a horrible job of is they don't explain things to people.
Right. Like why we need certain programs.
Yeah, and they don't explain to them in a human way so that people can understand in a human way. They start talking about this gobbledygook that nobody cares about. But see, Donald Trump, his superpower is that he knows how to hate. He's a bully, he's a hater. And see, there's always, you know, when you were a kid and the bully was messing with you, there was always 3 or 4 dudes around him that was hanging out with the bully because the bully had the power. And they would always laugh at you. Whatever the bully said about you, they would laugh at you because the bully was making fun of you. And that's Republicans. They're just standing behind him, laughing at you. And so that thing I was saying before about the only thing you can do to them is you have to deflate their shit by dogging them out worse than they can dog you out.
Right.
And that's what Democrats don't know how to do. They don't know how to expose them as haters. They start talking about things. They talk about authoritarianism. Well, people don't know what the fuck authoritarianism is.
Right.
They know that. I never heard that word until Donald Trump showed up.
Interesting. Is that right? So
Yes. Yes. I mean, but they know. They maybe know what a dictator is. You have to use language that you have to say, hey, man, they're getting ready to cut your grandmama off of Medicaid, and she ain't gonna be able to go to a nursing home, dude. They're gonna have her on the street selling pencils like back in the 30s and shit. She gonna be selling apples on the corner, man. That's what your grandmama do, and then your mama goes right behind her. I mean, and people can maybe those are images you're selling. People start people start to see those things. Because that's what old people did before Social Security. They got old, they got sick, they had to sell apples on the corner. They had no money. There was something called the poorhouse, which was like not even a homeless shelter, which was a building maybe they'd maybe put you in if you were lucky. And so those are all these things I learned from my family because they were old.
Man.
The poorhouse. They just talk about the poorhouse. They gonna put you in the poorhouse, boy.
Right. And I've heard that expression before,
Yes.
but didn't really understand that there was an actual
and
poorhouse.
all of that stuff went away because of Democrats.
So one of the things I'm so struck by your filmmaking and your body of work is that you seem like you very clearly from the beginning understood the power of cinema, or that cinema had a certain power.
Yes.
And that you could start to tell stories that people would be impacted by, and that was like the thing that was driving you to tell stories. And I feel like in a way that's different than a lot of other filmmakers' journeys. Like like you hear like I wanted to be Steven Spielberg, or I wanted to, you start out kind of emulating somebody, right. And it almost seems like you started out wanting to have an activist point of view. Am I right in that?
No doubt about it, man. I mean, I didn't think about it in those clear terms, really.
Yeah.
But that's really what it was. I mean, part of it was growing up in the 70s, going to, it's like and really the 60s too. As a kid then, but I was movie freak, so I went to movies every weekend. And so there were these things called the problem pictures. And problem pictures were mainly like Sidney Poitier movies, and they talked about race, and they were about the problem. Literally they were about the problem. Hollywood was responding to the civil rights movement, and so they made these movies, and I just loved those movies as a kid. I saw them on TV.
Yeah. And you're seeing these in Junction City?
In Junction City on television.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's three channels back then, and so a lot of these movies would. Back then, my whole thing, you'll appreciate this. We'd watch the movie, then we'd go play it.
Oh,
so it's like
you'd act it out.
You'd act it out, man. So you go see the movie, and then you went home, and the whole time you're watching the movie, you're kind of like, this is gonna be fun to play after this.
Right.
So it's all Western or war. I love war movies. It's so funny because I'm an anti-war now guy, but I love war movies because of the adventure.
Sure.
The adventure.
Yeah, and the stakes.
And the heroics.
Life
the stakes, life and death, and so all that stuff, it kind of, watching those problem pictures specifically, and then kind of becoming interested in the civil rights movement and history. I was always a history guy. So all of that stuff had a big influence. And then so you're looking for it in movies.
Right.
I was looking for that stuff in movies.
Okay.
So movies like Strangelove, Dr. Strangelove, you know, I mean, it's like those movies are so great because they take a problem in society, and the movie gives you a way to handle it and to control it and to feel like now you have an understanding of it.
Right.
And these issues don't control you; you control them now.
Interesting. Okay.
And that's what you're trying to give the audience. You're trying to give the audience a sense of control over these things they have no control over.
Well, you talking about this is making me realize that our audience may not know your body of work. So you are basically describing a film that basically put you on the map, CSA, Confederate States of America.
Yes.
And that is a mockumentary that you made that was depicting the world that would have occurred had the South won the Civil War.
Yes.
And I remember seeing that movie for the first time, and you have commercials for what is it? Chains, leg iron.
Yes, all the devices to keep slaves in check, you know, and controlled.
Yep.
And then you have, you know, all these products that you find out at the end of the movie actually existed in America. Some of them still exist. I mean, Darky toothpaste is sold in China. It's called Darlie now. Darlie toothpaste. A friend of mine just brought me back a tube from his visit to China.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know, but you know,
that's such a powerful thing to then show that these actually did exist, because it plays
Uncle
in the movie.
Uncle Ben's rice and Jemima pancakes.
Right.
They just changed that a couple years ago.
Right.
When we were making the film, that stuff was still alive and kicking.
And those are holdovers from
aunt and uncle are terms from slavery.
Wow.
Aunt and uncle are terms from slavery. Those are the names they gave house slaves.
And so the activist in you sounds like was there from the beginning. I guess my question is, what led you to make Confederate States of America, CSA,
Sure.
and do it in this mockumentary fashion that you did? Like, was that for the maximum impact that you knew they would have on the audience, or?
Yeah, it's like you were saying, man. You're always, you know, when you're making a film, you know, you're always trying to find what's the best approach, right?
Right.
And you know, every movie's different. Mm-hmm. Every movie's got a certain, you know, thing that makes it important to do. But then there's the question of what's the right approach to make it the most effective.
Right.
And so the reason I wanted to make the film was the Confederate flag was still flying over this, you know, the capital of South Carolina, and you know, Confederate flags on, you know, you see them in. I mean, this is a in the free state supposedly, but you saw Confederate flags on people's cars all the time back then.
Right.
So the Confederacy was still very much alive. It's gotten better. It's having a comeback now. We can talk about that later, but it's having a comeback now. But you know, so I wanted to make people aware that the Confederacy really kind of won the war. You know, we think that it lost, but you know, our sympathies since they lost the war have been toward the Confederacy, not toward slaves.
Interesting.
Gone with the Wind is, you know, there's no scenes in the movie of Mammy and her family.
So you mean the South won the war in the sense that they created this sort of iconic, beautiful picture of the South, and like almost like they told a better story.
No doubt about it, and it's called the Lost Cause. There's a whole you know, whole genre of books that were made called the Lost Cause, and Gone with the Wind is the number one of them. But there's also a whole string of movies that were made. There was so many movies, and Kansas and Lawrence is in a lot of them.
Is that right?
Yes, they were made during the 50s and 40s, 50s, and early 60s. Audie Murphy was in 2 or 3 of them, and there's a lot of these movies. The worst one is called Santa Fe Trail. It's on Max if you want to watch it.
Okay.
Stars Errol Flynn and Ronald Reagan, of course, and basically, you know, the abolitionists are the bad guys in the movie.
Okay. And
that's the thing that, and it's always bent toward a sympathy toward the South, and that's the thing that people, when you watch those movies, they should be called Southerns, not Westerns. They should be called Southerns.
Yeah.
Because they're really about kind of how the South, from the Southern point of view,
Okay.
And so you just don't really kind of see what's really going on in the movie because it's disguised as a Western. It's disguised as, but John Brown is a bad guy in Santa Fe Trail.
Jeez. Well, and at this point, I guess when you make CSA, are you in Lawrence?
I'm in Lawrence, yes.
Okay.
I'm teaching at KU.
Because, and I want to get to teaching and how that informed you as a filmmaker, but in addition to Lawrence feeling like this sort of creative safe space for me, I also was very aware of the history when I was here.
Right.
And I was not somebody who just naturally gravitated towards that. I didn't think about the history of where I grew up, really.
No, most people don't.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of reason for me to. I grew up in a suburb of Oklahoma City, and before that I was born in Wichita, and my family kind of moved around Kansas and landed in Oklahoma. And it wasn't until I got here that I started to understand, like, oh, Kansas was on the north side of the Civil War.
Right.
And John Brown, the fiery abolitionists fought for slaves' freedom.
Right.
And then it got very violent right here in Lawrence.
The Civil War really kind of starts here.
Yeah.
Really, it really does.
Yeah.
And the thing I always tell people, because, that Santa Fe Trail is a good example. You always make John Brown look like he's crazy. People always say, well, John Brown was crazy. It's like, it's funny. I've never heard anybody ever say a slave owner is crazy. But the only guy in America freeing slaves besides Harriet Tubman, he's crazy. And and that's the thing. It's like slave owners could be as violent as they want to be to slaves, cut their feet off if they ran away, torture them, do all kind of experiment on them, do all kind of horrible things. But the minute that somebody fights back for their freedom, then that's crazy. That's crazy. And that's the thing about history, is that it's the old saying, the history is written by the spoilers. It's written by the winners.
Right.
So the slaves weren't writing the history of their story in America.
Right.
The South did, and the South, you got to remember, after the Civil War, it's just like Lawrence. Lawrence is being burned down 3 or 4 times during the lead up to the Civil War.
Yeah.
And by Missourians.
Right.
After the war was over, we have to be friends with Missouri.
Right. We have to play basketball.
We have to play. Exactly. And we hate them because of that, right?
Hate them. And my stepdad, studies the Civil War. He lives in Clay Center, not far from here. And he would always joke about that.
Yes.
Like, oh, this is the Civil War playing out. And I thought it was funny until I realized, like, oh, no, that he's
really
not
is the deal.
kidding.
He's not kidding. I mean, that's the real deal. And there are people that still hate Lawrence, Missourians, because of that.
Right.
But when you get down to the technical reality of it, though, is that Americans, after the Civil War, Kansas has to be friends with Missouri. They can do business together. They're all part of the Union, and so they have a reunion, and this reunion is the thing that created these movies we're talking about, where it's the Southern point of view that gets made. Because the only way to be friends again is we have to forget the thing that brought us to killing each other, which was slavery. So slavery is removed from the cause of the Civil War. So you always see these movies during that time. Why are these people fighting each other? We don't understand why aren't we just brothers? We're all brothers and sisters. Like, no, remember, you guys wouldn't give up the slaves, and Abraham Lincoln said you got to free them. And people didn't necessarily fight because of that, but a lot of people did.
Right.
And Lincoln is murdered because of that.
Right.
By racist John Wilkes Booth, who's mad because the South has been destroyed. And so, that's the thing about America, is that there's all this stuff that happens way back a long time ago that's still sitting right in your lap today.
That plays out, and it takes somebody like you. It's almost as if your career has been a reaction to what you're saying. Like
no doubt about it, man.
To change the narrative and to point out all of the things that have been glossed over in a way that people don't think about. And so you make CSA, and that's a huge hit for you, right? Like you had made one film previous to that?
I'd made my first film before that.
Okay.
And so that movie kind of put me on the map. That's how I met Spike, was from CSA.
And so you meet Spike Lee. How do you guys meet?
So he heard about the film.
Okay.
And he called me, And he said, I heard about your film. I'd love to see it. And we had the same agent at the time.
Okay.
And it's a great Hollywood story because the agent before I got into Sundance with CSA, they saw the film and they said, so what do you want me to do with this?
Really?
Just like that.
Your agent says that.
Yeah, so
well, let's back up, because what we hope is that this podcast will be listened to by film students and people just starting out. So a lot of people don't have an agent, and here you are in Junction City. Your first film.
I was in Lawrence then.
Oh, sorry, you're in Lawrence, but your first film was made in Junction City.
Yes,
correct?
yes, yeah. Well, Kansas City area, kind of all around a little bit. Where I could get somebody to help me, you know.
But your film was called Junction City.
Yeah, it's
right?
about a street in Junction City.
Right. Okay. And so then you make that film. Do you get an agent from that film?
No, I did not.
Okay.
And so
but were you teaching at KU at that point?
I was not quite teaching then yet.
Okay.
I was about to start teaching there. It's about the next. I had just finished that film when I kind of got hired, and it was really, I sold the first screenplay I sold was with a buddy of mine, Mitch Bryan, and he had lived in LA, but he'd moved back to Kansas City after the LA riots.
Oh, in '92.
In '92.
Okay.
And there was an article about my movie, and in it I said, I want to write a movie about John Brown. He saw that. He wanted to make a movie about John Brown too. So I didn't know him, and he didn't know me, but we had this interest in John Brown, and so we collaborated on the script, and we sold it to 20th Century Fox.
Wow, that's incredible.
And that's how we got an agent.
And that's how you got an agent.
That's
okay, so then you sell a script to 20th Century
and the
Fox.
thing about getting an agent is that the minute you have something to sell, you get an agent.
Yeah, exactly. They appear.
They appear out of nowhere. They just suddenly they're there. Hi, we're here to serve you. You know, the minute you're out struggling trying to get something going, there's no agent anywhere.
That's right. My friend Jay Duplass gave me the best piece of advice. He said, everybody wants to jump aboard a moving train.
No doubt about it.
Nobody wants to help you push the train.
That's right, brother.
Yeah.
That's the deal, man. So we got an agent, and so I made CSA totally independently.
Yep.
This is what I'm teaching at KU. And Matt Jacobson, who is one of your favorite professors, I know.
Yeah.
He loves you. It was really Matt that really the key, because I needed a great cinematographer who could really make this vision come true for me. Mm-hmm. And we were sharing an office. He had just came to work at KU.
Because he came from LA also.
Yes, he had come from LA too. And so we made this film, man, and so we made the film, and then I showed it to my agent, and the agent literally says, so, just like this, he says, so what do you want me to do with this? And then the next day, literally, I got into Sundance, and he called me back and said, Kevin, you're a genius. And the thing I always tell folks from that story is that that William Goldman has that saying, in Hollywood, no one knows anything.
Nobody knows anything.
And what that means is that no one knows anything until someone tells them what they know. So they didn't know CSA was good until Sundance said it was good. Now they know.
Interesting.
So they're waiting for someone to tell them what they know.
Right.
But they have no opinion themselves.
And that's where you come in. You tell us what we know.
Tell us, and you have to just do your thing, and they may not get it.
Right.
But you can't not do your thing because they don't get it.
Sure. And the more you, in fact, do your thing, the more people actually love it. Like the more personal, the more universal.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And so that's how then Spike heard about my film, wanted to see it, saw it, loved it, wanted to support me on it. So it's presented by Spike Lee.
Cool. And so you guys strike up a friendship, and do you start working together right away, or does
he asked me immediately, he says, what else do you have?
Yeah.
Which is the other thing a student should always know, is when you get a break, you need to have something else.
I'm so glad you're talking about that, because anytime I talk to students, that's the first thing I say is nobody wants, after you make your first film or your latest film, nobody wants to talk to you about that anymore. It's always
what you got
next.
now.
So you got to have something in the hopper.
And all it means is that when you make your first film and they like it and it gets acclaimed and it gets attention, then they're going, okay, so, that's fine, that's great. A lot of times they don't really get the benefits of that film.
Right.
So it's really kind of, they're now investing in you.
Yeah.
So what do you have that I can use? And so you got to have a script, you got to have a project, you got to have, you know, a story developed. You got to have something that's
Sure.
ready to go.
Yeah.
That you can pitch right there.
Yeah.
And it's got to be something that, you know, is commercial enough in some way that they have some chance of connecting to.
Right.
So fortunately with this was I had a script called Gotta Give It Up, which was I was in a play at Marymount College in Salina, Kansas. It's Lysistrata.
Okay.
Lysistrata is a Greek play from 411 BC, I think it is.
Wow. Okay.
You know, I mean, ancient play about women going on strike, on a sex strike to make men stop going to war.
Interesting.
So I took, and the play was written in verse, and so I thought the verse sounded like spoken word, it sounded like rap. So I took the play and I rewrote it into a screenplay, added and set it in terms of gang violence. And so women go on a strike. Lysistrata is the leader of them. She goes on a sex strike to stop women from, to stop gang violence. And so they turn their boyfriends and husbands or whatever down to make them go to have the peace. And Spike loved it. And we went all over Hollywood trying to pitch this thing. You know, we had the script, and we had 2 readings of it for DreamWorks. But in the end, they didn't do it. So we had a meeting with Jennifer Lopez. She was going to be Lysistrata.
Wow.
And then, so it went away. So Spike went on, I went on to other things. Worked on Only Good Indian and, you know.
Because that's your follow-up film to CSA, is
Yes.
Only Good Indian. And
Yeah.
I think CSA was 2004? Is that right?
Yes.
2004, and then Only Good Indian is 2009.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So there's a
and-
5-year.
Yeah, well, we made another film in between, a movie called Bunker Hill.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, and that's like 2006 or
And
so.
you co-wrote that
I
with
co-wrote
Spike.
that. No, I wrote that with the guy here in Lawrence.
Oh,
the
okay.
guy named Greg Hurd.
Greg Hurt, okay.
Yeah, and so cut to 20 years later, Spike calls me, and it's like 2014 or something, you know, something like that. And he says, "Do you still have that script?" And I said, "Yeah, I still got it." He said, "Let's set it in Chicago and call it Chirac." And that film became, if not the first, one of the first movies that Amazon Studios produced.
Wow, look at that. So that's a great lesson in, like, just because something doesn't happen immediately,
right.
there's Hollywood's full of those stories.
All
Like,
the
you know,
time.
it took me 15 years to make this. Or
That's right.
whatever.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And especially when you got someone like Spike, who, you know, obviously has juice, but, you know, people don't understand that it's hard for anybody to get a movie made.
Yeah.
You know,
Even if you're Spike Lee.
even if you're Martin Scorsese, he doesn't. You know, I mean, the only guy that probably got it like that is Spielberg.
Right.
But everybody else has to deal with stuff.
Yeah.
And so and then after that we did BLACKKKLANSMAN, and then we did Defy Bloods together.
Right. And people, you know, me being one of them, would assume that when you win an Academy Award and you are then introduced anytime you do anything like this podcast as an Academy Award winning filmmaker,
Sure.
Kevin Willmott, that people will come out of the woodwork to support you and to help you make your next projects. Is that true?
Well, I mean, you know, the thing I tell everybody is that, you know, I work nonstop now. As long as it's a project they want to do, as long as it's their project. I mean, your project is always difficult to get made.
Right.
But, you know, usually what they do is like it's just like when we talked about when you get your first break. It's no different when you win an Academy Award. Then the question becomes, you know, so what do you want to? It's not what do you want to do? It's here's what we want you to do.
Interesting.
Here's what we have for you.
And you seem like somebody who's not going to like that.
Well, you know, forthertunely, the thing.
or what I mean is, you're not going to want to do what they probably want you to do.
Well, the thing I didn't know, I didn't have this all figured out. I kind of stumbled into it. Is that because I've made movies and written so much about history and Black history, and things like that. You know, that's how they see me. And that's kind of a problem and not a problem.
Right.
You know, because, you know, they always want to pigeonhole you.
Sure.
But I don't mind being pigeonholed. I mean, and I've got more things that I can do than that. But as a whole, I got a lot of projects coming to me that are from that subject matter.
Sure.
And I love that stuff. I'm a history guy. I'm a Black history guy. That stuff means stuff to me.
Yeah. I would say that is a common thread in your work, is Black history. Seems to be like from your very first film up until your latest, you are basically telling stories about Black history.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I tell you, Ben, I didn't realize what it was until until about a year ago. It was during COVID, I think. And you know, and I was thinking about shit, and I remember, I think I was in like 5th grade, and when Martin Luther King was killed, I was in 4th grade. And that's really when I learned I was Black. Because you don't really know who you are until someone kind of tells you who you are, you know, in terms of race or religion or something like that,
right.
you know, ethnicity. And so, you know, I kind of knew I was Black, but what a point? It was not, you know, it didn't matter, right? But then Dr. King is killed, and I was a current events history kid.
Okay.
I saw it on the TV that night. My mother screaming, crying, all upset, just like totally out of control. Go to school the next day. Martin Luther King was assassinated last night. And my teacher says, we won't be talking about that.
Wow.
We won't be talking about that.
Wow.
And of course, I'm obsessed with it after that.
Sure. Because that's all you want to talk about.
That's all you want. After somebody tells you, we're not going to talk about that.
And you're seeing your mother's reaction at home. And also, too, I think for people listening, you know, Kansas is not necessarily known for its large African-American population.
No, and Junction City it was a Black town. It's like 50% Black, you know, it's like, you know. And so, because in Fort Riley, the Buffalo Soldiers were there.
Right.
You know. But that same year, I stumbled on a comic book as a kid, Classics Illustrated, and it was devoted to Black history. And me being a history guy, I didn't know anything about Black history. I didn't know there was a such thing as Black history.
Right.
And so I find this comic book, and it's got Crispus Attucks, who was the first person killed in the American Revolution. It was a Black man. Like, what? And I see Dr. Hale Williams he creates his blood plasma, and he does the first heart operation, and all these first about Black people, and Crispus and Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, and it's like, what is all this? And it was a comic book.
Wow.
It was a comic book.
Wow.
So I was introduced to Black history through a comic book.
That's incredible. And also makes sense why you would then translate that into movies.
Yes.
That's such an easy, that's such a, sort of jump that you can make pretty quickly, right? It's like storyboards in for a film.
That's right. And also, I saw it as entertainment.
Right.
Because it entertained me. It entertained me. It's like the Problem Pictures that entertained me. This comic book entertained me.
Yeah. And
it's like, oh, so this is I'd like to tell stories like this. And I always liked history anyway, so this is up my alley.
It's incredible.
But yeah, man, and it's told me so much about myself.
Right.
You know, it's like where my head was. Yeah, where your head was when you're in 4th, 5th grade. You know, and seeing that comic book, I remember that thing had such an impact on me when I saw it because I was a history guy and I knew history.
Yeah.
You know, and I could, in class, I was a history dude. I could break shit down. It's like, oh yeah, but Napoleon, he did, you know, me, I'm that dude.
Right.
But this was like a world that had been totally kept from me.
Wow.
And so I became obsessed with that after that, obviously. So.
This is incredible. Well, so I want to get to teaching, where teaching comes in for you. So because you're, for somebody making films in Kansas to premiering at Sundance, working with Spike Lee, like you've had some incredible victories as an independent filmmaker. And two things that stick out to me about your career that I find fascinating and really inspiring are that you stayed in Lawrence and you were teaching during this whole time. And those are strong choices to make. And I think a lot of people may have moved to LA and tried to just throw their lot in full-time with making their next film. And so I'm curious as to why you decided to both stay here and to teach.
Well, I tell you, I think that one of the big things was that when I was a kid, and I was talking about looking at the Montgomery Ward catalogs and looking at the 8mm cameras.
Right.
I dreamed about making films with some of my friends. Even as a little kid, it just never happened. So really, when I got to KU, I finally got to make films with my friends.
Interesting.
Okay. And they had the equipment. They had the equipment, and they had all the equipment. They had the sound and the editing and the red camera. It's like, oh, the glory, hallelujah! And I finally got to live out that dream I had when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And Matt Jacobson was, I tell him all the time, it's like, you were the guy I was dreaming about as a kid. I was looking for someone who could help take these ideas in my head and make them into a reality.
Yeah.
And I would tell people, it's like, if you're a writer or a director or got ideas, you need to connect with people that can make your dreams come true. And because you can't do everything. Film is not a one-man show.
No, it's a team sport.
It's a team sport. And so you have to have, so really I was able to build a community, really kind of through my first film, 9th Street, and then through CSA, and then when I taught, then I was able to really build a really close-knit community in Lawrence. That really was my film family, And that more than anything is why I stayed. Because it gave me the autonomy, gave me the freedom to tell stories I wanted to tell.
Interesting.
And the thing that activism also taught me was that, you don't really change much of anything in activism. So if you're looking to change things, if you're going to be an activist, and if you can't change things, you're going to quit. Well, you shouldn't probably be an activist because you're not going to change much. So activism, a large part of activism is really what you believe in. It's just, so it's like, so I make movies that I believe in.
Right.
And I don't really care what happens after that. I don't really care if a lot of people see them. If they do, great. If they don't, that's fine too. I mean, you always wanted to have a big success, but it doesn't, that part of it, in activism, you can't be caught up on results. Because when you get caught up in results, you just quit. It's just too depressing. Right. I mean, shit doesn't change.
Yeah.
So I remembered that from activism, and I've embraced that, and trying to remember why I wanted to be a filmmaker in the first place. I wanted to be a filmmaker because there were stories I wanted to tell, stories that I believe in, and that my friends believed in.
Right.
And they're fun. They're fun to make with my friends. They're fun. We have a good time making those movies.
Yeah.
It's not work.
Yeah.
It's pure enjoyment. And it's making cotton candy out of air. It's just like suddenly you got this thing that you've made, and it's a thing you can look at now. It's like, how did that happen? Well, I had an idea, and I got this guy, and we wrote it on a piece of paper, and next thing you know, it's like it actually exists.
Right.
It's just crazy.
And that's also kind of like your playwright background too, which is like that's sort of in the spirit of like putting on a show.
Yes.
By any means necessary.
That's
right.
Everybody,
you bring the camera, I'm gonna bring the.
That's right.
The actors.
I tried not to forget that part of it.
Yeah.
I tried not, because in the end, that's all we're doing.
Right.
That's all Hollywood does. They just do a bunch of money and a business, but in the end, we're going to get a bunch of people again. We're going to put on a show.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And they turn it into such a corporate thing. They make it all stiff and controlled and shit. But in the end, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so, my whole thing has been trying to not forget that part of it. And staying here, it's like you being in Austin, staying in a city kind of outside of the industrial part of film, it helps you to do that.
Yeah.
Because you've got a community of people that I know you have that kind of keep you honest, and it keeps your values in check and intact. And you tend not to lose yourself, which is so easy to do.
So easy to do. And I have that story. After Winnebago Man, I moved to LA, and I was going
Miserable?
to be, yeah, I wasn't miserable. I was going in this direction where I had made a comedy. I wanted to make
Yeah.
people laugh.
Yeah.
I had almost literally never written a screenplay up to that point, even though I'd written a couple little things here or there. And all of a sudden I told my agents and managers I want to make narrative comedies.
Yeah.
And that's a huge hill to climb, and to do that after having a successful film, when really, had I stayed in Austin and worked with my friends and made the next funny film that we had come up with together, I would have been a lot more successful than trying to blaze this trail on my own. But I got it in my head that that's what you needed to do.
Well, that's
to
what
be
they're told.
successful.
That's what everybody's told.
Yeah.
And it probably helped me too, man. I might have easily done that as well. It helped me that I had a family.
Yeah.
So I had a reason to stay here too. I mean, just like, I didn't want to, I lived in New York, with my family right after I graduated from NYU, and it wasn't bad. And I had a good friend there, but it's hard to have a family in New York and live the way kind of I like to live. I mean, I like one thing that I love about Lawrence is it's easy living. I don't have to think about living here. It just kind of happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
I ain't got to worry about, my drive to there and my, how am I going to get over there? And I mean, I don't have to, I don't have to worry about that stuff.
Right.
It's just easy. I can concentrate on those things that I really want to concentrate on.
Sure.
Those are hard enough as it is. But yeah, it is easy to kind of do that because everything tells us to do that. But you were able to hold on to your voice, and you were able to keep your voice, and we all kind of, there's been times where I've tried to, everybody's, they think, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, they'll buy that, they'll do that, and sometimes you get desperate a little bit, you need some money or something, and you try to do this thing, and of course it never works out.
No, because it's almost like they can smell it on the project or something.
Totally, man. And so I think we all fall into that hole a little bit, but my documentaries, we created a nonprofit a few years ago, and it's called Do Good Productions, and I make these documentaries that are kind of like my features, where about something I want to say, a story I want to tell. It's not about money. We don't make any money. That's why it's a nonprofit.
Right.
But I air them on local PBS.
Yeah, that's where I was able to watch them, and
Yeah.
it wasn't until I went to your IMDb page and saw that you've made 3 documentaries in the last 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, we make one about it once a year.
That's incredible, and one of the things I was struck by with your films is that the William Allen White one, for example, is about a pioneering journalist around the turn of the century, a little bit later in the teens and 20s. But you, in telling his story, he was very much against populism.
Yes.
And in you cutting to B-roll away from some of the interviews, you cut to Trump and you show like "Make America Great Again" hats, and I was so struck by that juxtaposition. Like, you are making a very pointed comment about where we are today, and sort of also not being afraid to make it about right now, whereas sometimes filmmakers get a little bit afraid to reference things too directly.
I think, Ben, that's the connection that Spike and I also had.
Interesting.
Because Spike's never been afraid. And when you do the activism thing, and when you've kind of been on the outside of society, and you've tasted what I call the other end of America.
What do you mean by that? What is the other end of
Well,
America?
the other end of America is being a nigga, is being called a nigga. I've been called a nigga several times in my life. And it's not just being called the word, it is seeing the face, the thing that you remember when people say that. You remember their face. You remember the hatred that they have on their face, or the the exclusion that they have on their face. I remember, and I remember it so many times in college, where there'd be some girl that was all interested in me, and some white girl, and she'd be all kind of, and then she'd want to introduce me to her parents, and then you see their face, and you just see their face just just drop, just drop, you know, and they don't know anything about me but my color.
Wow.
And you just see them go like, we don't want that. We don't want you. We don't, you know, get away from us. You know,
Wow.
and you know, and that's just one example, but you know, there's hundreds of those examples all the time. And you know, and so when you've tasted the other end of America, and you know, if you've been discriminated against, or you know, had been discriminated against when I was a kid on jobs, you know, and when you've tasted that shit, and you've seen it up close and personal, you kind of then that stuff is good for you. It's really, really good for you, because you understand, you develop an understanding about human beings, and you kind of know the difference between good people and bad people, and you're not afraid to make a judgment call. And so it's anyway, but it's that thing that allows you the freedom to feel like my opinion matters.
Right.
My opinion matters, and I'm gonna share it. I'm not afraid to share it. And I want to tell, I mean, you know, you have to feel like what you say matters.
Right.
And you know, I mean, so many times I think filmmakers, they make, it's like Democrats, they make you feel like, well, I don't want to, you know, just be out there pontificating. It's like, no, are you a leader or not? If you're making a film that makes you a leader, you are a leader. You are stepping out of the pack. You're saying, I'm telling this story for the world. So you're putting you got your flag and you put it in the ground. And you're saying, look at me and look at my story. And if you're not willing to do that, then you should just go back home and forget about it. Because you have to be willing to say something and then stand by it. And not be afraid when the criticism comes. I got death threats from CSA. Oh yeah, all the time.
Right? You got death threats
Death
as
threats.
a result of...
Two of the best stories about CSA and the reaction. Guy worked at Kansas City, Blockbuster. He said, man, one time a dude brought back your movie. He said, I hate this movie so much, and snapped the DVD in half right in front of us.
Wow.
He said, one time we got the movie back and it was covered with shit. It was just covered with shit. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and those are the two best compliments I think I've ever received.
I was gonna say, as an activist, as somebody who's trying to provoke a strong reaction.
Hey man, you can't get better than that. That's
Right.
That's the best reaction I could ever get.
Wow.
Because obviously, it fucked him up.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the point where he had to destroy it in front of people. He wanted to destroy it in front of people. In front of the people who own the video. In front of the people that own the DVD.
And what do you, I mean, that's fascinating to think about, like what maybe happened to him as a result. Like, did that live in his brain back there? And
Let me tell you, man, I've had friends, man.
Did you plant a seed that is now growing? Like maybe that guy's leading like the NAACP in Kansas City or something.
Exactly, man. There was a guy, good buddy of mine. I love this guy. But he kind of gave me some footage for the film. He does Civil War reenactments and stuff, and he gave me some footage we used in the film.
Okay.
And I told him about the movie, but he didn't understand what I was saying when I told him. And then he saw the film, and then he wrote me this long letter, and he just kind of really let me have it about how it was wrong and you know. And you know, you gotta understand, he made a living on those reenactments.
Right.
So you
celebrating the South.
Celebrating the Civil War, which is also the South. So you gotta, and so those guys that dress up in Confederate uniforms, a lot of those guys still believe in the Confederacy.
Right.
And they got that Confederate mentality. So so then about a couple years ago, he wrote me and he said, I just want to write you and tell you, man, how sorry I am about that letter I sent you. He said, I was totally wrong. You were so much further ahead than I was in understanding this shit. But Trump had made him see the error of his ways.
Wow.
That he'd seen how the Confederacy now that these people have taken the Confederacy, and now we're living in the CSA. I think we're living in the CSA now. I mean, it's no longer the USA, it's the CSA. I mean, and it can be the USA again, but we're gonna have to fight and get it back. But we're living in the CSA right now, and he saw that. He saw that, and he was a good enough guy and a deep enough thinker, because most people can't admit they're wrong, and most people are not going to take the time to apologize about it, and he did. It showed you that, you know, the thing you were saying from the very beginning about you have to believe that stories you tell can affect people like that.
Right.
You know, and not every, I mean, I like to make people laugh too. I mean, not every story is, you know, life-changing, altering kind of shit.
Right.
But there's a part of that story in there somewhere where you're making a moral judgment about something. And you can't be afraid to do that.
Man. I think this is about as good as it's going to get, Kevin. This is really incredible. You've given me so much to think about, and this is exactly what I was hoping to talk with you about. And you know, I want to be respectful of your time. We're a little bit over an hour. One thing we didn't talk about is that this is a documentary podcast where we go on walks. Mm-hmm. And when I asked you to do this, you said, I would love to, but can we not walk very much? And so that is why we've been sitting at a table here having this conversation rather than walking. And then as we stroll back up here, I want to ask you about your decision to stay in Lawrence. I understand meant that, here, let me stay on this side of it.
Sure.
Meant that you could make films with your friends, but also staying in Kansas is a deeply red Republican state.
Yes.
And so when you were talking about how, you know, we're living in the CSA, and, you know, the Republicans have sort of jumped the shark, and you live in enemy territory.
I'm living in enemy territory. I'm living behind the lines, man.
That's right. And so was part of teaching for you and part of staying here in its own way an act of activism or rebellion?
I think so, man. And also, man, Lawrence is if Lawrence is the only place I could have lived.
Yeah.
You know,
it's similar to Austin where I live, which is like it's the liberal.
Yes. It's the red dot in the blue. It's the blue dot in the red state.
Exactly.
It's the blue dot in the red state, and because of that, you know, it's enabled me to kind of do my thing.
Yeah.
You know, and feel like I, you know, wasn't really totally out of place.
Does it rev you up? Like, does it sort of rile you up and feed that sort of creative spirit in you?
Yeah, man. And also, you know, I grew up in Kansas, so it's like it's not like I didn't know.
Right.
You know, I've been around rednecks my whole life, and you know, so I'm used to it. And partly, you kind of say too, is like, you're not going to run me off. If I want to stay here, you're not going to run me off. You know,
interesting.
It's my house too.
Yeah,
it's my state too. It's my country too.
Absolutely. Well, and we need voices like yours, like symbols. Not to say you're a symbol, but like you're an example to students that you can tell challenging stories, and also you can do it outside of Los Angeles. You can do it your own way.
In some ways, I think, man, that hey, bro. Some ways, I think it's like, when you stay in a place like this and you make a choice to kind of, you know, not go to New York or LA, it makes it easier for you to tell those stories. You know, for one thing, it's you know, you don't have to ask permission.
Interesting.
The big thing to me about, you know, telling stories like I've been telling is I don't have to ask permission. So I decide what I'm going to tell, I tell it.
And so by that you mean like you can raise the money here,
I can raise the money
with your friends, you can make things here in a way that's easier than...
Destination Planet Negro movie cost me $7,000.
Wow. You made a movie here for $7,000.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Wow.
Yeah, and West Studios in it, and no one got paid. Took me 3 years.
Yeah.
Did a little bit at a time, but I knew going in it was going to take me a long time.
Right.
And so I just didn't worry about, you know, that. And we worked on the weekends, and we, you know, did it a little bit at a time, and it was great. Wow. It wasn't frustrating because I knew it was going to take a long time. And so, but it only cost them, and I knew that I didn't want to waste years trying to persuade the industry to give me something I knew they didn't want to give me.
Right.
So I just did it myself.
Wow.
And that's the power of living in a little poo-butt town.
In a poo-butt town.
You know, that way you can just get your friends together and they all can understand, yeah, we just want to make a movie too, man.
Right.
So let's just do this thing.
Right.
And we don't have to ask anybody for anything. Yeah, and then that movie got me tenure.
And that movie got you tenure at KU.
CSA got me tenure.
Wow.
And
so
then that movie got me a full professor.
Wow. So Kevin, you just retired this year.
Yeah.
You're 65, you said?
Well, I'm 67.
Oh, 67, sorry. And so, but you said you're busier now than you've ever been.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Well, actually, I'm going to direct a new movie here next month, man, in North Carolina. It's called The Bard.
Okay.
B-A-R-D, and it's about George Moses Horton, and he was the first African American to be published in America, and he was a slave. Wow. It's crazy, and it's a kind of a Cyrano de Bergerac story.
Okay.
He lived in Chapel Hill, North Carolina,
okay,
near the university, and that's how he kind of got published. But it's a great story.
And are you gonna make it with your friends from?
No, this was a paid gig.
Wow. Okay.
They hired me to co-write it and direct it.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about it. It's David Strahan is in it, and it's going to be a really cool film.
Well, I love all your films. I am so appreciative that you and I got to be friends, that I met you when I was a student at KU, and that you took the time to do this.
Oh, man, we're all very proud of you, brother. And it's great to see you doing your thing, man. You know, because it's seeing you do your thing, doing this right here, such a great reminder to me of like this is what it's about.
Yeah.
We're doing our thing, man, and you can say whatever you want to say with this.
And I also can celebrate the things that inspire me and
Exactly.
that reminded me of why I wanted to do this in the first place.
That's right.
And you were one of those people, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk to me.
Anytime, my friend. Anytime,
Awesome.
man.
Cool. All right, let's cut.
All right.
All right, so that was Ben's solo walk with Kevin Willmott there in Kansas. I've been to Kansas, but I haven't been with Ben, and I've never met Kevin Willmott till now, so I really appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. Well, and thank you for indulging me. This one was longer than usual. We're playing around with length, so this one's a little over an hour, whereas typically we've been more at like a half-hour point. So we want to hear from you guys. Do you like when the episodes are shorter? Do you like when they're longer?
Yeah, how much dock walking do you need? We need the steps either way, so.
So you let us know in the comments, please. And let's see, for next week, we have...
Next week we have us. So it's, this Kevin Willmott episode is episode 15 of Dock Walks. We are
celebrating a milestone. We are 15 episodes into this, which means that we've made about 10 plus hours of quality podcasting at this point.
Well, let's not worry about how much of the 10 hours is quality. But cumulatively, we've been at it for about 6 months now.
That's right.
And we've been sharing these with you for about 3 months. And we're still showing up and still happy to be here. We want to talk to you guys more about what you want, what we can be getting into, who we should be talking to, and what's next.
And so we're going to pause and kind of reflect on 15 episodes, how we're feeling about it, what we would like to do more of, and what we like the most about doing this so far.
So anyway, we're out on a walk right now. This is actually the end of episode 15, but it might as well be the beginning of episode 16, because that's what we're doing today. And we'll catch you next time
on Dock Walks.
Dock Walks is created, produced, and edited by my friend Ben Steinbauer of The Bear.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley.
Thanks for tuning in.
Follow us at Dock Walks Pod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.